Hey there, Allison again with my analysis of The Ring, the 2002 Gore Verbinski film starring Naomi Watts. Alright, jumping right in it. First off, I'd like to say that The Ring is a horror movie. And in a horror movie, unlike a drama, the story, characters, and themes are often used as a vehicle to create maximum fear and suspense. So some of the themes in the movie are used as merely a means to create horror or disgust, and some are, just part of the narrative. I grew an even greater appreciation for this film making this analysis because I saw just how much care was put into the characters, story, and scares. People often remark that this movie just isn't scary, but at the same time remark on how unnerving and memorable it is. That's not accidental. It is true that this movie doesn't have a lot of outright scares or gore. Honestly, it reads more like a mystery thriller, but it does make up for it in a more subtle, subconscious way. It calls to mind horror classics such as The Shining, which also had a mere sprinkling of actual horror, but tons of suspense and creepiness. In this video, I will not only analyze the themes in the story, but the tools used to create fear. I'll start with the minor themes that don't tie up in as big of a way. First would be urban legends. The whole lore of the tape itself and the way the girls talk about it is just like any typical urban legend like Bloody Mary. Even the way it's two youths discussing it, which is typically who spreads these urban legends. Another minor theme is sickness. Samara's visions and the drama involving her and her family was referred to as a sickness or a cold at least twice. Maybe this is a metaphor for how information is spread from person to person in the modern age, like a virus. It also calls to mind how something is called viral when it gets shared a lot on the internet. Alright, the next theme seems to be the biggest one. It's the narrative theme of family and parental neglect. Every single character in this story is somehow involved in or deeply affected by parental neglect or a broken family. Samara herself is a problem child who her parents chose to neglect by stowing her away in a barn and eventually murdering her. Even after Miss Morgan obsessed over a child, almost as if it were some luxury item that she wanted. Afterwards, Samara's curse on humanity is almost like the ultimate temper tantrum and cry for attention from a child. We see sort of the opposite in this from the island psychiatrist, whose grandson appears to have some sort of developmental disability. She says it herself that they knew as soon as he was born that something wasn't right with him, but they loved him anyways. On a side note, I'm fully aware that Samara was a total demon child and not just some regular kid with a problem. Anyways, Rachel and Noah are another example of parents gone wrong, but in the sense that they try to deny the fact that they're parents and they cling to their careers in denial. Noah outright stays out of Aiden's life. Rachel tells him that he needs to grow up, and we see that he lives in this, trendy studio apartment, totally immersed in his career with tapes and photos and equipment strewn throughout. His girlfriend doesn't even know Rachel, and it's safe to assume that she doesn't know about Aiden either. Noah's excuse for this is that he doesn't believe he will be a good father, because his own was such a disappointment. A further tie into the broken family theme. Rachel has fully taken up responsibility for Aiden, but we see that there's room for improvement. Now, I know it's a huge challenge to be a single mom, but she does seem to sacrifice her relationship with Aiden for the sake of her career. Even throughout the film, he is left with various sitters and relatives. He calls his mom by her name, which is completely abnormal and shows that he may not be, that close to her. We see him making his own lunch for school and walking to school alone. This is also shown in a way that suggests that this is the norm for him. My assessment is that Rachel and Noah were young, ambitious, students or workers in the journalism industry. He was perhaps a cameraman and her a writer. They got pregnant and neither of them were willing to give up their careers or ambition. The job of a parent completely fell on Rachel. and she probably even insisted on it. Of course, this is not to say that, you must totally give up on everything once you become a parent, but Aiden clearly has not been either one of their number one priorities. We see this dynamic shift throughout the film, though. Rachel calls on Noah for help, and he slowly starts to accept the fact that he is a father no matter what and must take responsibility for Aiden. It even seems as though he and Rachel have rekindled their romance and that they will take up the responsibility of parenthood together and become a family. Rachel also, she even has a clear character arc here. We see her talk down to her boss and belittle him, and even to a degree Aiden's teacher, showing that she starts out as very arrogant and self-centered and self-assured, and is slowly humbled and learns to put others' needs before her own. She even spends the night in Aiden's bed when she discovers Samara's body, after she gets home from discovering Samara's body. She talks about how she doesn't care what time it is and she just wants to cuddle up with her son. It seems like their family may actually become whole. Of course, all of these hopes are totally dashed by the death of Noah, which is actually pretty brilliant of a horror movie to totally, turn you on your head and invert your expectations like that. So, lastly, in terms of theme, I wanted to touch on these clever tools that the film uses to create an atmosphere of fear, suspense, and disgust. First is the use of subliminals. I spoke already about how the rainwater on the windows is used as a subliminal of us being, the audience being surrounded by TV static and water. Images from the tape are also flashed in just a few frames throughout the film, and images from the actual world that are visually similar to those in the tape are as well. The second tool is just things that generally disgust or unnerve or scare humans on a primal level. We see fingernails getting ripped off or, nails getting driven through them, which makes just about anybody cringe. We hear the static noise from the television and it gets louder and louder, or high-pitched electronic whining noises, which are, similar to like nails on a chalkboard. Also, one of the most iconic scenes is when Rachel is having a nightmare about coughing up what first seems like hair, but is actually string. There's almost nothing more disgusting or vomit-inducing than swallowing hair and having to pull it up out of your throat. Even saying this, I feel bad because it's just so gross and horrifying. Also, the repetition of certain shots that foreshadow. There are 3 shots in the film, for instance, where the subject person is in the foreground and someone appears out of focus abruptly in the background. The first 2 shots of these are benign, but the last one is a huge scare when Mr. Morgan appears behind Rachel when she's broken into his house and is going through his things. For instance, also there are 2 shots of someone approaching someone who's in a chair, from behind. The second one of these shots is when Rachel discovers Noah's dead body. So, it's very commendable when a horror film works so hard and is so intelligent with using images and sound to communicate fear to you, and not just relying on obnoxious, loud, abrupt sound cues and jump scares like we see nowadays in a lot of these, cheaply made, mass-produced horror movies. I also love how this film not only stands as a horror film, but a character and plot-driven drama. Our characters are 3-dimensional people who propel the story further and have arcs. But yeah, that about wraps it up for me with this film. I could probably dig deeper into the symbolism of all the images on the tape and everything, but that would require a lot of speculation on my part, and I mostly just want to stick to what the filmmaker was really trying to convey and not my own interpretation, and to also stay more on the subject of filmmaking and film symbolism and stuff like that. I do want to say that Gore Verbinski is a great visual director, and I think the visuals is really what has made this film so iconic and, memorable. And he actually has a new film coming out called A Cure for Wellness, which looks very visually interesting and similar to this movie. I caught the trailer to it, and I actually was thinking, I was like, hey, this is reminding me of The Ring. Is this Gore Verbinski? And it was. And also, I originally wanted to do this movie before Halloween, but I was pretty busy. The holidays are always a really busy time for moms, and with Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, I'm probably going to be pretty busy. But anyways, on a side note, I was actually reminded of this video not only because of Halloween, but because there's a new sequel coming out, and it looks more on par with The Ring 2 than this movie, and it's probably actually even worse than The Ring 2. But yeah, it seems to have a lot of production problems. They keep pushing back the release date and stuff, so I don't think the studio has a lot of confidence in it, but anyways, you can check that out yourself. But yeah, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit like and subscribe if you like this content, and please feel free to comment below with questions, critiques of my analysis, ideas for other movies, or anything else. And thank you so much for watching again, and please keep watching movies.